Her dark fingers trembled as she gripped the syringe filled with death, and in that sterile room where power bowed to money, a black nurse nobody noticed became the only thing standing between a mafia king and his grave. The fluorescent lights of St. Agnes Memorial Hospital hummed their familiar song at 2:47 a.m., casting everything in that lifeless blue-white glow that made even the healthy look half-dead. Maya Johnson moved through the private wing's corridor with practiced silence, her navy scrubs whispering against her thighs, her braided hair pulled back tight in a professional bun that her supervisor said looked more appropriate. She'd heard that word a lot in her 3 years here. Appropriate. Maya, could you be more appropriate with your patient interactions? Translation, stop being so warm. They're paying customers, not your family. That hairstyle is lovely, but perhaps something more appropriate for the environment. Translation, your natural hair makes people uncomfortable. Your tone was a bit, let's aim for more appropriate next time. Translation, know your place. She knew her place. Night shift, private wing, the floor where the wealthiest and most dangerous patients bought their privacy and their secrets. The floor where nurses like her became invisible, convenient, forgettable, unimportant. Exactly what she'd learned to be. Maya checked her watch and moved toward room 804, the corner suite that had been transformed into something between a fortress and a throne room 3 days ago. The patient's name on the chart read James Park, but everyone knew that was bullshit. The 10 guards stationed throughout the wing, the way doctors suddenly became unavailable when they were needed, the hushed phone calls in Korean that stopped whenever she entered, it all screamed one truth. Room 804 housed someone powerful. Someone dangerous. Someone who made the hospital administration bend every rule they had. She'd seen him only once, during intake. Jin-woo Park, that was his real name, whispered by the younger nurses who watched too many K-dramas and somehow found mafia bosses romantic. He'd been unconscious then, beaten badly, bruised ribs and a concussion from what the admission paperwork called a car accident. Maya had worked emergency rooms in Baltimore before this job. She knew what car accidents looked like. She also knew what organized crime beatings looked like. This was the latter. But Jin-woo Park wasn't her concern tonight. Her assignment was the post-surgical patients on the west side, the routine medication rounds, the careful documentation that kept malpractice lawyers at bay. Room 804 had its own private nurse, a beautiful Korean woman named Samin who wore designer clothes instead of scrubs and had eyes like chips of black ice. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt invisible at work, because Maya's about to show us what happens when the invisible finally speaks up. Maya turned the corner toward the medication room and froze. The door was cracked open, just slightly, and through the gap she could see her. Samin. The private nurse who never left Jin-woo's side, who slept in the chair beside his bed, who hand-fed him soup and spoke to him in soft Korean that sounded almost like prayers. But Samin wasn't praying now. She stood at the medication cart, her back to the door, her shoulders rigid with concentration. In her elegant hands, she held a syringe and a small vial of clear liquid. Maya watched as Samin drew the liquid up with practiced precision, checked the dosage, then reached for a second vial, this one marked with a red label. Maya's nursing training kicked in automatically. Red labels meant high-alert medications. Dangerous. Requiring double checks and verification. Samin wasn't double-checking anything. She drew liquid from the second vial, added it to the syringe, then pulled out a third container, unmarked, unlabeled, something from her designer handbag. The liquid inside was slightly cloudy, wrong somehow in a way that made Maya's instinct scream. This wasn't medicine. Samin mixed the 3 substances together with the careful attention of someone who knew exactly what they were doing, then capped the syringe and slipped it into her pocket. She turned toward the door, and Maya barely had time to step back into the shadows, her heart hammering so hard she was sure it would give her away. Samin glided past, her expensive perfume trailing behind her like a threat, heading back toward room 804. Toward Jin-woo Park. Toward the man who trusted her completely. Maya stood frozen in the empty corridor, her mind racing. She'd seen something wrong, something dangerous, something that every instinct in her body told her was murder disguised as medicine. But what could she do? She was nobody here. An invisible night nurse who couldn't even wear her hair the way she wanted without being told it was inappropriate. Who would believe her over Samin? Over the beautiful, devoted companion of a mafia boss? Who would even listen? Maya thought of her mama back in Baltimore, who'd raised her alone after her father died, who'd worked 3 jobs to put her through nursing school. Her mama who always said, "Baby girl, you became a nurse to save lives. Don't matter whose life it is. Rich, poor, saint, or sinner, you save the ones you can save." Her hands were still shaking, but Maya made her decision. She pulled out her phone and quickly snapped photos of the medication cart, the vials, the red-labeled container still sitting open. Then she moved toward room 804, her heart in her throat, knowing she was about to do the most terrifying thing she'd ever done. She was about to save a monster's life. The 2 guards outside room 804 looked at Maya like she was an insect that had wandered into the wrong building. One of them, thick-necked, with a scar running down his jaw, stepped forward, blocking her path. "No entry," he said in heavily accented English. "Private nurse only." "I need to check the patient's vitals," Maya lied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Hospital protocol. Every 4 hours." "No." The guard's hand moved to his waist, where she knew a gun probably rested. "You go now." Through the narrow window in the door, Maya could see Salman standing beside Jinwoo's bed. She was smiling, that gentle smile of a devoted caretaker, as she reached into her pocket. The pocket where she'd hidden the syringe. Maya had maybe 30 seconds. "Listen to me very carefully," she said, her voice dropping to urgent whisper. "That woman in there is about to kill your boss. I'm trying to save his life." The guard laughed, a harsh sound. "You crazy. Miss Salman love him. She just mixed 3 unauthorized medications in the supply room," Maya interrupted, pulling out her phone and showing him the photos. "Look. See that cloudy liquid? That's not hospital medication. If she injects that into his 4-line, he'll be dead in minutes, and you'll be the ones who let it happen." The second guard leaned in, squinting at the screen. His expression changed. "Hyung," he muttered to his partner in Korean, then switched to English. "We should check. Mr. Park will have our heads if we—" A woman's scream cut through the hallway. Not a scream of fear. A scream of rage. Salman had discovered Maya's interference. Maya didn't think. She shoved past the guards, burst through the door, and found herself face to face with the woman who held a syringe of death in her perfectly manicured hand. "Get out!" Salman hissed, her composure cracking like fine porcelain. "Who do you think you are? You're nothing. A nobody nurse who—" "That injection will end you," Maya said, her voice cutting across the room like a blade. She wasn't looking at Salman anymore. She was looking directly at the man in the hospital bed. Jinwoo Park's eyes were open. He was awake. Watching. His face was still swollen and bruised, but his gaze was sharp, predatory, missing nothing. This was a man who'd survived in a world where trust was currency and betrayal was death. A man who'd built an empire on his ability to read people. He was reading Maya now. "Sir," Maya continued, her words tumbling out in a rush, "my name is Maya Johnson. I'm a registered nurse on this floor. 3 minutes ago, I witnessed this woman preparing an unauthorized injection in the medication room. She mixed 3 substances, 2 from our pharmacy, 1 from her personal bag. The mixture is inconsistent with your prescribed treatment plan. If she administers that injection, you will die." The room fell silent. Salman's face had gone white, then red, her knuckles bone pale around the syringe. "She's lying. She's a disgruntled employee, probably racist, trying to cause problems because she's jealous that I—" "Check the security cameras," Maya said quietly, still holding Jinwoo's gaze. "Check the medication room. I took photos. I have timestamps. And if I'm lying, if I'm wrong, then you can do whatever you want to me. But if I'm right—" She swallowed hard. "If I'm right, then the woman you trust most in this world just tried to murder you." Jinwoo Park's expression didn't change. But his hand, his right hand, the one not connected to the 4, moved. Just slightly. A gesture. The guards burst into the room. "Take the syringe from Miss Salman," Jinwoo said, his voice rough from disuse but absolutely commanding. "Don't let her inject anything. And someone get me the security footage from the medication room. Now." Salman's mask shattered completely. "Appa, no." The Korean term of endearment sounded desperate, pleading. You can't believe her. After everything we've been through, after I stayed by your side when everyone else. The syringe, Salmon. Jin Woo's voice was ice. The guard with the scar stepped forward and gently but firmly took the syringe from Salmon's trembling hand. She looked at it like he'd taken a piece of her soul. Maya's knees almost gave out. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. But as the adrenaline started to fade, reality crashed in. She'd just accused the girlfriend, or wife, or sister, or whatever Salmon was, of a powerful crime lord of attempted murder. She'd interfered in something that was so far above her pay grade it might as well have been happening on another planet. She'd signed her own death warrant, probably. Someone bring me a laptop, Jin Woo said, pushing himself up in the bed and wincing. And you, he looked at Maya for the first time with something other than cold assessment. Sit down before you fall down. You look like you're about to pass out. Maya sank into the chair by the window, her legs no longer willing to support her. Through the glass, the city sprawled out in the darkness, millions of people sleeping peacefully, unaware that in this room, a life had just been saved and another was about to be destroyed. One of the guards returned with a laptop. Jin Woo's fingers moved across the keyboard with surprising speed for someone who'd been unconscious 2 days ago. He pulled up the hospital's security system, something Maya didn't even know was accessible from patient rooms, and navigated to the medication room cameras. The timestamp read 2:39 a.m. They watched in silence as Salmon appeared on screen, looking both ways before entering. Watched as she went to the medication cart with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. Watched as she pulled out vial after vial, mixing, preparing, creating. Pause there, Jin Woo said softly. The image froze on Salmon pulling the unlabeled container from her bag. Zoom in. The guard operating the laptop obeyed. The container came into focus, a small glass bottle with a handwritten label. The writing was in Korean, but Jin Woo clearly understood it. His jaw tightened. Hemlock extract, he translated quietly. Mixed with potassium chloride and insulin. A cocktail designed to mimic a heart attack in a patient with my injuries. He looked up at Salmon, who stood frozen by the window, tears streaming down her face. You studied this, didn't you? Planned it carefully. Made sure it would look natural. You deserve it, Salmon whispered, her voice breaking. After what you did. After what you took from me. The room seemed to hold its breath. Jin Woo closed the laptop slowly. Tell me. You killed my brother. The words exploded from Salmon like a wound that had been festering for years. 3 years ago. The shipment that went wrong in Busan. You said there were no witnesses, no loose ends. But Min Jae was there. My baby brother was 22 years old, Jin Woo. He was supposed to be in graduate school, but he got mixed up with your rival's crew, and you. Her voice cracked. You executed everyone in that warehouse. Everyone. Maya's blood ran cold. She was sitting in a room with a murderer. Multiple murderers, probably, if the guard's expressions were anything to go by. What had she saved? What kind of man had she protected? So you came to me, Jin Woo said quietly. You made me trust you. Love you. You became the only person I allowed close to my heart. All so you could destroy me. All so I could make you feel what I felt. Salmon screamed. Do you know what it's like? To smile at the man who murdered your family? To let him touch you, hold you, while you dream of his death every single night? I earned this revenge, Jin Woo. I earned it with 3 years of my life. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jin Woo looked at Maya then, really looked at her, and she saw something unexpected in his eyes. Not gratitude. Not relief. But a deep, bone-weary recognition of what her intervention had cost him, not his life, but his last thread of human connection. You saved a monster, he said to her, his voice hollow. Is that what you thought when you heard her story? That you made a terrible mistake? Maya's throat was dry. She thought of her mama's words. You save the ones you can save. She thought of the Hippocratic Oath, the promise she'd made when she became a nurse. First, do no harm. She thought of Salmon's brother, 22, and dead in a warehouse. She thought of Salmon herself, 3 years of her life sacrificed to vengeance. And she thought of what she'd seen in the security footage, a woman calmly, coldly mixing a poison designed to kill a helpless patient in a hospital bed. No, Maya said finally. I didn't make a mistake. Because no matter what you've done, no matter what crimes you've committed, murder is murder. And I'm a nurse. I save lives. That's what I do. Even when those lives are complicated. Even when I don't understand the whole story. She looked at Salman. Your brother's death was wrong. But killing Jin-woo while he's unconscious in a hospital bed? That's wrong too. Two wrongs have never made a right, and they never will. If you've ever had to choose between what's easy and what's right, drop a comment. Because Maya's choice is about to change everything, and she doesn't even know if she'll survive it. Salman's laugh was bitter, broken. You're a fool. A naive, idealistic fool. You think this is some kind of moral victory? He'll kill me now. That's what he does. And then maybe he'll kill you too, for knowing too much. No, Jin-woo said quietly. I won't. Everyone in the room turned to stare at him. Sir, one of the guards started. I said no. Jin-woo's voice was stronger now, more certain. Look at us. Look at what we've become. Salman, you gave 3 years of your life to hatred. 3 years of pretending, poisoning yourself with rage every day. And for what? So you could become exactly what you hate. A killer who strikes at helpless victims. I'm nothing like you. You're exactly like me, Jin-woo interrupted. You just haven't admitted it yet. And this woman, he gestured at Maya. This stranger who had nothing to gain and everything to lose, she just showed both of us what we've forgotten. There's still a line. There's still right and wrong. There's still a choice. He looked at Salman with an expression Maya couldn't quite read, regret, maybe, or recognition, or something deeper that had no name. Your brother's name was Lee Min-jae, Jin-woo said. He was 22. He was studying biochemistry at Korea University. He was in the wrong place because his roommate owed money to the wrong people, and he tried to work it off by helping with a drug shipment. He wasn't a criminal. He was a kid trying to help a friend. Jin-woo's voice roughened. I remember him. I remember all of them. Salman's face crumpled. I can't give him back to you, Jin-woo continued. I can't undo what I did. But I can stop the cycle. I can choose to be someone different than the man who pulled that trigger. Because of her. He nodded toward Maya. Because someone who had no reason to care about my life decided that even a monster deserves mercy. The next 72 hours were the strangest of Maya's life. She should have been fired. Should have been arrested for interfering with a patient's private care. Should have been disappeared by Jin-woo's organization for knowing too much. Instead, she was promoted. Effective immediately, you're the head nurse for the private wing, Administrator Chen said, not quite meeting her eyes. Substantial pay increase, better hours, full benefits package. We value your dedication to patient safety. Translation, Jin-woo Park had made a phone call, and suddenly Maya Johnson was untouchable. She wasn't sure how she felt about that. Her co-workers noticed the change immediately. Suddenly, the woman they'd ignored for 3 years was someone important. People held doors for her. Doctors asked for her opinion. Her supervisor, the one who'd been so concerned about her hair being appropriate, started calling her Maya instead of Johnson. It made her skin crawl. But it also gave her access to room 804, where Jin-woo was recovering and where something unexpected was unfolding. He hadn't killed Salman. He'd made her stay. She's under guard, one of the younger guards, a man named Han who'd started nodding respectfully at Maya, explained. Boss says she's not allowed to leave until he decides what to do with her. But he also says no one touches her. No punishment. Just waiting. Maya found them together one night during her shift, sitting across from each other in Jin-woo's room like two chess players in the middle of an impossible game. Salman's eyes were red-rimmed from crying, but her spine was straight. Jin-woo looked exhausted but alert. They were talking. You can't just forgive me, Salman was saying as Maya entered to check vitals. It doesn't work that way. I tried to kill you. I killed your brother, Jin-woo replied. So we're both murderers. Or we both choose to be something else. Those are the only two options I see. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Jin Woo's voice was sharp. Your brother's death wasn't fair. My parents being killed by a rival gang when I was 16 wasn't fair. The nurse who saved my life being put in danger because of me isn't fair. But fairness isn't the point anymore. Survival is. Change is. Becoming someone who can look in the mirror without seeing a monster. Maya cleared her throat. Both of them looked at her. Sorry to interrupt, she said, feeling absurdly out of place. Just need to check your blood pressure and temperature, Mr. Park. Call me Jin Woo, he said quietly. You saved my life. I think we're past formalities. She approached the bed, pulling out her equipment. As she wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm, she felt Saman's eyes on her, no longer filled with rage, but with something closer to curiosity. Why did you do it? Saman asked suddenly. You heard what he is. What he's done. Why save him? Maya inflated the cuff, watching the gauge. Because I'm a nurse. And because I believe people can change. Maybe I'm naive, like you said. But I've seen it happen. I've seen addicts get clean, I've seen abusers break their cycles, I've seen people who thought they were beyond redemption find their way back to being human. She released the pressure, noting the reading. Your blood pressure's good, she told Jin Woo. Even murderers? Saman pressed. You think even murderers can change? I don't know, Maya admitted. But I know that the second we decide someone is beyond saving, we lose a piece of our own humanity. And I'm not willing to lose that. Not for anyone. The room fell quiet. Jin Woo was watching her with that intense focus again, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You have family? He asked. Maya hesitated, every instinct screaming at her not to answer. But something in his tone made her think the question was genuine, not threatening. My mother. In Baltimore. She raised me alone after my dad died. She must be proud of you. She worries, Maya said with a small smile. I'm her only child. She calls every day to make sure I'm okay. And are you? Jin Woo asked. Okay. Maya met his eyes. Honestly? I'm terrified. I don't know what I've gotten myself into. I don't know if I'm safe, or if my mother's safe, or if I just made the biggest mistake of my life. But I also know I'd make the same choice again. Because that's who I am. And if I change that, if I let fear make me into someone who walks away from people in danger, then I've lost the only thing that really matters. Something shifted in Jin Woo's expression, a crack in the ice, a glimpse of the human being beneath the crime lord. I'm going to make sure you're safe, he said. You and your mother. I'm putting protection on both of you, whether you want it or not. Because you're right, you don't know what you've gotten into. My enemies are now your enemies. The people who wanted me dead are going to wonder how I survived, and when they find out a nurse interfered. He shook his head. I won't let anything happen to you because you saved me. I don't want your protection, Maya said firmly. I don't want to be part of this world. Too late, Saman said quietly. You're already part of it. The second you walked into this room, you became part of his story. And his enemies are very good at finding loose ends. A chill ran down Maya's spine. There's someone in particular, Jin Woo said, his voice hardening. Lee Tae-gun. He runs the rival organization. He's the one who ordered the hit on me, the accident that put me in here. He has people everywhere, including in this hospital. That's how Saman was able to access the medications, why no one questioned her presence. Tae-gun owns half the staff. Then why haven't they tried again? Maya asked. Because they think I'm already dying, Jin Woo said. They think Saman's plan is working. They think she's on their side. Maya's eyes widened. She looked at Saman, who had gone very pale. You were working with them, Maya breathed. The rival gang. They helped you get close to Jin Woo. Saman nodded slowly. They found me a year after Min Jae died. I was drowning in grief and rage, and they offered me what I wanted most, revenge. They gave me a new identity, trained me, positioned me to meet Jin Woo at a charity gala. Everything was planned. Everything was orchestrated. She looked at Jin Woo. But I didn't tell them the full truth. I told them I'd poison you slowly, over months, make it look like stress and heart problems. They don't know I was going to end it quickly. They still think I'm their asset inside your organization. So they're waiting, Jinwoo said. Waiting for me to die. And when I don't. He looked at Maya. They'll realize someone interfered. And they'll come looking for whoever ruined their plan. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. So what do we do? Maya asked, proud that her voice didn't shake. We. Jinwoo raised an eyebrow. You said I'm already part of this. So what do we do? A ghost of a smile crossed Jinwoo's face. We set a trap. We use the fact that they think I'm dying. We make them show themselves. And we end this. He looked at Salmon. But I'll need your help. I'll need you to go back to them, convince them everything is going according to plan. You want me to be a double agent? Salmon asked incredulously. After I tried to kill you? I want you to choose, Jinwoo said quietly. Revenge or redemption? Becoming the monster or becoming something better? The same choice I'm trying to make. He paused. Your brother is dead, Salmon. Nothing will change that. But you're still alive. And so am I. And so is Maya, who deserves to go home to her mother without fear. We can keep destroying each other, or we can destroy the people who created this cycle in the first place. Lee Tae-gun ordered the hit on that warehouse. I pulled the trigger, but he gave the command. He's the reason your brother died. He's the reason I became what I am. Salmon's hands were shaking. If I betray them, if they find out. Then we all die, Jinwoo finished. But at least we die trying to do something right. At least we die as people, not as monsters. Maya wanted to scream that this was insane, that she didn't sign up for gang warfare, that she was just a nurse who'd made one impulsive decision. But she looked at these two broken people, one destroyed by grief, one hardened by violence, and saw something unexpected. She saw hope. Fragile, tentative, maybe doomed. But hope nonetheless. Okay, Salmon whispered. I'll do it. I'll help you. Jinwoo nodded. Then he looked at Maya. And you need to go back to your normal shifts. Act like nothing happened. If Tae-gun's people are watching, they can't know we're connected. They can't know you're anything more than a random nurse who checked my vitals once. But this is how I protect you, Jinwoo said firmly. By keeping you invisible. By making sure you stay the person no one notices. Can you do that? Maya thought about 3 years of being overlooked, dismissed, treated as inappropriate. She'd hated that invisibility. But now it might be the only thing keeping her alive. Yeah, she said. I can do that. The plan unfolded over the next week like a carefully choreographed dance of deception. Salmon left the hospital, returning to the luxury penthouse she shared with Jinwoo, surrounded by his guards who were now secretly loyal to his counterplan. She met with Lee Tae-gun's lieutenant, a cold-eyed man named Park Sung-ho, and reported that Jinwoo was deteriorating rapidly. Another few days, she told him, her voice steady despite the wire Jinwoo's people had hidden in her designer watch. The poison is working slowly, but it's working. His heart is weakening. He's in pain. And he suspects nothing. Maya went back to her regular shifts, checking on post-surgical patients, administering medications, being invisible. But now she had a panic button in her pocket and 2 of Jinwoo's guards shadowed her from a distance, watching for threats. She also had her mother's voice in her ear every night, worried and confused about why Maya suddenly wanted her to visit her sister in Atlanta, just for a few weeks. Mama, please, I just think you'd enjoy it. Her mother had gone, still protesting but trusting her daughter's urgency. That made Maya breathe a little easier. Jinwoo remained in the hospital, playing the role of a dying king, receiving visitors who came to pay respects and jockey for position in the power vacuum they assumed was coming. Maya watched from a distance as men in expensive suits made promises they had no intention of keeping, as alliances shifted and reformed like sand. It was fascinating and horrifying in equal measure. On the 8th night after the confrontation, everything changed. Maya was doing her midnight rounds when her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, room 804. Now. JW. She dropped everything and ran. The hallway was empty, too empty. The guards who usually stationed themselves outside Jin Woo's room were gone. The door was ajar. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, but Maya pushed through anyway. Inside, she found Jin Woo standing by the window, dressed in street clothes, looking stronger than he had any right to be. Saman sat in the visitor's chair, her face pale but determined. "They're coming," Jin Woo said without preamble. "Tonight." Tae-gun got impatient. "He's sending people to finish the job and make it look like my heart finally gave out. Saman warned me 2 hours ago." "Then why are you still here?" Maya demanded. "Why haven't you run?" "Because I'm not running anymore," Jin Woo said quietly. "I'm 53 years old, Maya. I've spent 37 of those years running, from poverty, from weakness, from conscience. I built an empire on fear and blood, and it's made me rich and powerful and completely empty. You asked me a question when we first met, you asked if I was a monster who could change. I'm ready to find out. By getting yourself killed. By taking responsibility." Jin Woo's voice was steel. "Tae-gun is coming here because of me. Because of the world I created. And I'm going to end it. Tonight. No more cycle of revenge. No more innocent people caught in the crossfire." He looked at her intently. "But I need you to do something for me." "What?" "I need you to witness it. I need someone who isn't part of this world to see what happens here. Someone who can tell the truth, whatever that truth is. Can you do that?" Maya's throat was tight. "Jin Woo, this is insane. Call the police." "Call." "The police are bought," Saman interrupted quietly. "Half of them are on Tae-gun's payroll, the other half on Jin Woo's. There's no authority higher than the one we create ourselves. Then create a better one." Maya almost shouted. "You're talking about a confrontation that could get everyone killed. There has to be another way." "There isn't," Jin Woo said. "Not anymore. Tae-gun has to believe I'm vulnerable, dying, an easy target. That's the only way he'll come himself instead of sending foot soldiers. And when he comes, when he confesses to ordering the warehouse massacre and the hit on me, when he reveals how deep his corruption goes." Jin Woo pulled out a small recording device. "You'll have evidence. Real evidence that can't be bought or buried. Evidence that might actually change something." Before Maya could respond, the lights in the hallway went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. An alarm started blaring, but not the hospital's alarm. Something else. Something that made Jin Woo's expression harden. "They're here," he said. "Early. Saman, you know what to do." "Maya," he grabbed her arm gently. "There's a panic room behind the bathroom. Get inside. Lock the door. Don't come out until I come for you. No. Please." The single word carried more weight than any order could have. "Please, Maya. You saved my life once. Let me make sure that meant something. Let me protect yours." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Multiple people. Moving fast. Saman moved to stand beside Jin Woo, her hand disappearing into her purse. When it emerged, she was holding a gun. "I never thought I'd die defending you," she said softly. "I never thought I'd die trying to be better," Jin Woo replied. "Life is strange." The door burst open. Lee Tae-gun entered first, a silver-haired man in his 60s with the eyes of a shark. Behind him came 4 armed men, their weapons drawn, their faces cold and professional. Tae-gun stopped when he saw Jin Woo standing, healthy, clearly not dying. "Surprise," Jin Woo said quietly. For a moment, no one moved. Then Tae-gun started laughing, a horrible, humorless sound. "So the little nurse figured it out," he said, his eyes finding Maya. "I wondered if she would. Wondered if she was brave enough or stupid enough to interfere. Apparently both." "Leave her out of this," Jin Woo said. "This is between you and me. It's always been between you and me. Nothing is between just two people," Tae-gun replied. "Every action has ripples. Every choice has consequences. You think you can just walk away from what you've built? You think you can find redemption?" He spat the word like a curse. "You're a killer, Jin Woo. Just like me." Just like all of us. And killers don't get happy endings. Maybe not, Jin-Woo agreed. But they can choose how they die. They can choose what they die for. He pressed a button on his phone. The room's hidden cameras activated with a soft beep. Red recording lights blinked to life. Taegun's face went slack with shock, then twisted with rage. "You're recording this?" "Every word," Jin-Woo said. "Every confession. Every threat. And the moment you leave this room, or the moment you kill me, these recordings upload automatically to every news station, every police department, every federal agency I could find. Your empire will burn, Taegun. Either tonight or when I'm dead. Those are your only two options." "Then I'll kill you and burn anyway," Taegun snarled. "And I'll kill everyone in this room to make sure." "No," Maya said, stepping forward from where she'd been frozen by the wall. "You won't." Everyone turned to stare at her. Her hands were shaking, but she pulled out her phone and held it up. On the screen was a live stream, broadcasting to her Facebook, her Instagram, her Twitter, every social media platform she had. 5,000 people are watching this right now, Maya said, her voice stronger than she felt. More every second. They can see your face, Taegun. They can hear your voice. They know who you are and what you're planning to do. If anyone in this room dies tonight, the whole world will know you did it. This is it, the moment when the powerless become powerful, when one voice can change everything. Drop a comment if you believe that ordinary people can stand up to evil, because Maya needs to know she's not alone in this. Taegun's gun swung toward her, and Maya saw her death in his eyes. But then Salmon's gun was there, pressed against Taegun's temple. "I told you I was working for you," Salmon said quietly. "I lied. I was working for revenge. Then I was working for redemption. And now?" She smiled, a broken, beautiful expression. "Now I'm working for the people who showed me that change is possible. So you have a choice, Taegun. Put down the gun and face justice. Or we all die here tonight, and the world watches." The silence stretched. Outside, sirens began to wail. Real sirens this time, police, responding to the calls that had started flooding in from Maya's live stream viewers. Taegun's shoulders slumped. The gun clattered to the floor. And Jin-Woo Park, crime lord, murderer, monster, took his first real step toward becoming something else. 6 months later, Maya stood in the doorway of her mother's new house in a quiet Baltimore suburb and felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. The house was modest but beautiful, paid for anonymously, delivered with a note that simply said, "For the woman who raised a hero. A friend." Her mother still didn't know the full story of what had happened that night in the hospital. Maya had told her an edited version, leaving out the guns and the gang war and the live stream that had garnered 20 million views. Some truths were better left simplified. "Baby girl, you coming in or just gonna stand there wool gathering?" her mother called from the kitchen, where the smell of cornbread and collard greens promised Sunday dinner. "Coming, Mama," Maya called back, smiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but she recognized the pattern by now. Jin-Woo changed his number every week, paranoia still deeply ingrained despite everything. "The sentencing is tomorrow. Thought you should know. Thank you again for everything. JW." Maya didn't respond. She never did. But she'd follow the news tomorrow, watch as Lee Taegun received his sentence for racketeering, corruption, and conspiracy to commit murder. The recordings from that night had been enough, just barely, to convince federal prosecutors to move forward despite the web of corruption Taegun had woven through the city. Jin-Woo had made a deal. Testimony against Taegun in exchange for a reduced sentence. He'd still serve time, 10 years, probably less with good behavior, but he'd live. And more importantly, he'd chosen to dismantle his own empire rather than let it continue destroying lives. Salmon had made a deal too. Community service, probation, mandatory therapy. The prosecutors had been sympathetic to her story of grief and manipulation, especially after Maya's testimony about how Salmon had ultimately chosen to protect rather than destroy. It wasn't perfect justice. It wasn't movie-ending justice where everyone got exactly what they deserved. But it was real. And it was change. Maya's life had changed too, in ways both big and small. She'd been offered a position as director of nursing at St. Agnes, a role she declined in favor of something more meaningful. She now worked at a free clinic in West Baltimore, serving the community she'd grown up in, using her skills for people who needed them most. The pay was less. The hours were longer. The patients were complex and challenging. She'd never been happier. Maya, her mother called again. Food's getting cold. Sorry. Maya tucked her phone away and headed into the warmth of the kitchen, where her mother was setting the table with the good china, the set she'd been saving for special occasions. What's all this? Maya asked. Can't a mother celebrate her daughter? Mama replied, pulling her into a hug. You've been through so much these past months. I may not know all of it, but I know my baby girl did something brave. Something that mattered. And I am so proud of you. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I just did what you taught me, Mama. Save the ones you can save. That's right, baby. That's exactly right. They sat down to dinner, and Maya's mother said grace, a long, winding prayer that thanked God for blessings and protection and second chances. Maya added her own silent prayer, for Jean Wu, finding peace behind bars and hopefully, truly changing, for Salmon, healing from her grief and learning to live beyond revenge, for all the people caught in cycles of violence who might one day find their way out. And for herself, for the strength to keep choosing courage when it would be easier to look away. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from an unknown sender through her hospital email. I saw what you did. That video, that night. I'm a nurse too, working in a place where I see things I shouldn't, where I know things that could hurt people if I spoke up. I've been silent for 3 years because I'm scared. But watching you made me realize that silence has a cost too. Tomorrow, I'm going to speak up. I'm going to tell the truth. Thank you for showing me that one voice can make a difference. You saved more than one life that night. A fellow nurse. Maya read the message 3 times, each time feeling the weight of her choice ripple outward in ways she'd never imagined. One person. One decision. One moment of courage. Sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. Everything okay? Her mother asked, noticing her expression. Maya looked up, smiling through tears. Yeah, Mama. Everything's perfect. The rehabilitation center was nothing like Maya had imagined. It was clean, well lit, with gardens visible through large windows. More like a retreat than a prison. Jean Wu sat at a table in the visitors' area, looking healthier than she'd ever seen him. The bruises were long gone. The hardness in his eyes had softened, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. You came, he said, standing when she approached. You invited me, Maya replied, sitting across from him. How could I not? You could have very easily not, Jean Wu said with a slight smile. Most people prefer to forget this part of their story. The complicated part. The part that doesn't fit neatly into a narrative. I'm not most people. No, he agreed. You're definitely not. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Through the window, Maya could see other inmates working in the garden, part of the facility's rehabilitation program. Jean Wu had apparently become something of a model prisoner, teaching financial literacy classes to other inmates and working with at-risk youth through a video program. I got my GED, Jean Wu said suddenly. Did I tell you that? I dropped out of school at 15, spent my whole life thinking I was too old, too damaged, too far gone. But one of the counselors here convinced me to try. Passed last month. Maya felt her throat tighten. Jean Wu, that's amazing. It's a start, he said. I'll never undo what I've done. Never make up for the lives I've taken or destroyed. But maybe I can tip the scales a little. Do enough good to balance some of the bad. He looked at her. You taught me that. You and Salmon. You showed me that change is possible, even for monsters. You're not a monster, Maya said firmly. You were a man who made monstrous choices. But you're making different choices now. That's what matters. Is it enough? I don't know, Maya admitted. But it's something. And something is more than nothing. Jean Wu nodded slowly. Salmon visited last week. She's doing well. Working as a victim's advocate now, helping people who've lost family members to violence. She says, She says she thinks Min Jae would be proud of who she's becoming. I think so too. And you? Jin Woo asked. How's the clinic? Exhausting. Frustrating. Absolutely perfect. Maya laughed. I treated a kid last week who reminded me why I became a nurse. 13 years old, gunshot wound, caught in crossfire between two gangs. He was so scared, Jin Woo. But he was also brave. And when I told him he was going to be okay, he believed me. That trust, that faith that someone cares enough to save you even when the world is falling apart, that's everything. Like you had faith in me, Jin Woo said quietly. Like I have faith in everyone's capacity to change, Maya corrected. Even when they don't have faith in themselves. The guard announced that visiting hours were ending soon. Maya stood to leave, but Jin Woo caught her hand. Thank you, he said. Not just for saving my life. For saving my soul. For seeing something worth saving when everyone else, including me, had given up. Maya squeezed his hand. Thank you for proving that I was right to believe. That even in the darkest places, there's still light. Still hope. Still the possibility of redemption. As she walked out of the rehabilitation center into the bright afternoon sunshine, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. From an invisible nurse overlooked and dismissed, to the woman who'd stood between a mafia boss and death, to someone who'd helped spark real change in multiple lives. She thought about the other nurses who'd reached out after that viral video, hundreds of them, telling their own stories of choosing courage over silence, of speaking truth to power, of saving lives even when it was dangerous. She thought about the investigative journalism series the video had inspired, exposing corruption in hospitals across the country, leading to reforms and accountability. She thought about the scholarship fund Jin Woo had established from prison, using his seized assets to send kids from disadvantaged backgrounds to nursing school, kids like Maya had been, who needed someone to believe in their potential. One choice. One moment. One injection she'd prevented from ending a life. And the ripples just kept spreading. Maya's phone buzzed with a message from her mother, dinner at 6. Bringing that nice young man from church I told you about. Be there. She laughed. Some things never changed. Her mother would always worry, always meddle, always push Maya toward the safe, normal life she thought her daughter deserved. But Maya had learned something in that hospital room a year ago, something she'd carry for the rest of her life. The safe choice isn't always the right choice. Sometimes you have to step into the fire. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save someone, even someone who doesn't think they deserve saving. Especially them. Because that's when it matters most. If this story touched you, if Maya's courage inspired you, if you believe that one person can make a difference, don't just keep scrolling. Drop a comment below and tell us about a time you chose to speak up when it was easier to stay silent. Share this story. Let it ripple outward. Because the world changes one brave choice at a time, and your choice could be the one that saves a life. Don't let this moment pass without making it count. Comment now. Maya climbed into her car, started the engine, and headed home. Tomorrow, she'd return to the clinic. She'd treat patients who couldn't afford care anywhere else. She'd advocate for people who'd been forgotten by the system. She'd continue being the voice for those who had none. Because that's who she was. Not a hero. Just a nurse who understood a simple truth: every life matters, every person deserves a chance at redemption, and sometimes the greatest power we have is the power to believe in someone when they've stopped believing in themselves. That injection would have ended Jinwoo Park. But Maya Johnson's courage had ended something much more dangerous, the cycle of violence, revenge, and despair that trapped everyone it touched. And in its place, she'd planted something new. Hope.